So we do have some questions that are ready. These are the questions I think you mentioned that you are also experiencing from your players, and I definitely am, right? So let's just go over it. And the first one is, how do you deal with a toxic team environment as a player who's possibly an introvert as well?
Do you have an example? Like, it came up at one of your sessions, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it came up. Yeah, it came up to me. So I don't know the exact situation, but yeah, it came up to me. So how would you advise? What kind of advice would you give that player? Nothing.
Do we know how
I was
old
gonna
this?
have Phil chime in first.
Yeah, do we know how old this kid is? I mean, for context.
12.
Okay. I mean, some of this is like advocating for yourself or having mom and dad advocate for you. You know, if you're not comfortable talking to the coach, if you're a little introverted, mom and dad have to step in and help you at least formulate some talking points with your coach. I mean, it has to be addressed from like a leadership standpoint, like top down,
Yeah.
as much as it does from bottom up. It's a team culture issue or a club culture issue. So kids either need to be comfortable talking to the coach on their own, or mom and dad, like I said, have to step in and help manage that conversation or that part.
Louis?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about a situation, and I think it's different for different age groups and how you would address it. So if it's, U12 or U13, the age group you mentioned, I mean, they're old enough where they should advocate for themselves a bit and not only go, but seek help when it's beyond them.
Yeah.
To be able to problem solve. Um, and so they being bullied is more of a level thing, where their teammates know that this teammate isn't as good as them in their perception.
So there's two examples that I've witnessed most recently. So the player who has specifically kind of asked about this situation, it wasn't necessarily a bullying situation, but more of being, I suppose it could be in a way bullying, but maybe being excluded in certain exercises, or when it came to getting into groups, maybe he might be the last one. But I know for a fact that he's not technically behind. In fact, I would say he's one of the top players. But I think just because of the personalities on, being an introvert possibly, and being passive in many ways, it could be a way to negatively affect his experience. Another one is she is a better player on the team. She's possibly one of the best, but maybe the middle ranked or the bottom ranked player is actually trying to create almost a diversion, right? Trying to justify the decision or her decision on not doing her best, right? So she's trying to bring this player down. So in that way, this player who's the better one, maybe she feels that she's being bullied because some of the comments that are coming from this player coming to her. How would you address that?
Fire the coach.
Shit, that's me.
I think there's some of this, like, you have to come together as a team and find some similarities between players, and so team chemistry is a big piece of this. How you set some common goals or find some common threads amongst all the differences in a team environment that might help.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are inevitably at odds, especially at these ages. I mean, let's face it, girls' teams can be a little catty. There's underlying social factors that take place. It's a slippery slope if you let it go too far.
Yeah.
your team could fall apart. And I don't mean you.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Right. I also think that that team environment, especially, can be quite tricky. When you're coaching a second team out of, say, 3 to 4, oftentimes you're going to see players that are actually trying to work hard and dedicate to get up to the first team, but some of them actually, they're quite content with where they are, right? So they just slack along, right? And there's that separation of, again, 2 different groups of players in one team.
I mean, some of it could stem from just like jealousy or insecurity. If a girl feels threatened by someone else's effort or attitude or performance, some of that manifests itself a little differently. I mean, the girl lashing out at the other one, like I said, could be just insecurity. She's jealous of the skills, placement in the team, or success on the field, and so some of it could stem from some issues internally or issues at home.
Mm-hmm.
So dealing with that head on is important. You talk to the parents of the girl acting up? Do you pull the player aside if they're old enough? Do you set up a meeting, phone calls, and an email? Like, there has to be a way for you or the coach to reach directly out to the player in question and discuss those issues directly with them, in addition to also talking about those types of details as a team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to provide clarity as far as what is the common goal you're all trying to achieve. Like as a team, where each player has a different individual goal, because they're all going to end up at different places at different parts of their trajectory. And so for the short term, the season, what is it that we're all trying to do? And we all have to row in the same direction, in rhythm, so we could achieve, whatever outcome it might be that the team wants. And propping each other up is part of it. And if you're successful, that's my success. And if I'm successful, that is another team's success as well. And so I think it's a domino effect, and it shouldn't be this internal, competitive culture within a team where I'm wishing ill on your performance so then I can shine brighter, because then you're only holding back the team from achieving the team's goal, which it could be, performing well at this showcase or winning a state cup or whatever it is for whatever, level the team's at. But beyond that, what are you trying to accomplish individually? And if you're only comparing yourself to the people around you, well, then you could be setting yourself up, the bar too low for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's trying to instill the idea of prioritizing later, right? And then doing things that are going to be helping you for the future self, not necessarily today, tomorrow. But I think it's obviously it's our job to make sure that the players understand what you're doing right now. You're not going to get the results the next day, but you're actually trying to set yourself up for success if the future self of 5 years later, possibly. Or just play the long game, play the long-term game. And another thing was the player who was struggling, right? He also felt he was being skipped out of the game on the weekends, because it's not like he's not getting minutes. He's getting pretty decent minutes, but each time I watch him play, I could see that the game is very much skipping past him. So the back four will push up really high towards the midfield line, but the strikers are also coming low, so they're squeezing the midfielders out wide, right? So he hasn't got a clue where he's meant to go really. And then as the back four pushes up with the ball, they skip past the midfield line and finds the forward. But it's not like where the forward drops low and sets it to the midfield line and then they link up from there to advance. They just turn and drive. So midfielders are just not even getting on the ball. So I don't think this player is necessarily having a good experience over training and on the weekends because of, social reasons on training days and because of possibly the tactical reasons on the weekends. So what kind of advice can we give him?
Find a new team to play in.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, a group of players aren't going to just suddenly change the style of play if it's not mandated by the coach or the club, the organization that they're in. Some clubs play a style that might not fit your technical or tactical or athletic capabilities. You find the right setup, the right system for you to be successful, and that's not to make light of jumping around from club to club because that's not ideal. But there is something to be said for identifying like-minded people, like-minded organizations, like-minded coaches that play to your strengths, not away from your strengths, so to speak. So it might be a culture issue with the club that this kid's at.
Yeah.
And so, is this player the introvert as well?
Yeah.
These are related.
Introvert.
So, would you say that he doesn't seek the game? Meaning, is he aggressive to try to find the ball? Is he?
Yeah, that's one thing I mentioned as well, because he's just gone from 9v9 to 11v11. So positionally, he's learning the game because it's first year, right? And then the very first few games I've seen, he was getting on the ball, but positionally he was out of place because of his decisions. But now I'm starting to notice that the team is actually playing much more direct, where no matter where he is, he's just simply not going to get on the ball. So something I mentioned was, well, if you think you're squeezed out of the game, tactically, I think you should play a line lower, maybe try playing as a centre back. That may be a good way to get involved on the ball a little bit more and actually have a better experience throughout the season. And also learning the game as well in a different position.
If you were to put a different player in his position, would the game still bypass that role?
Obviously, I wouldn't know the answer, but I would like to think so.
Gotcha. So it's not necessarily
Yeah.
the player, it's
Right.
the position.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how the team is set up.
Because I mean, we've been there where if we're playing in the middle of the park and the winger gets the ball and he starts dribbling towards me, and I'm like, how far do you want me to, where do you want me to go, right? Are you gonna give it to me? And as he gets closer and closer, I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta get out the way. And like, where do I go? And then by the time they say, look to my left and go there, I'm like standing next to my centre back. If I get out the way, a little bit higher, then I'm also overlapping with the striker. I just, there's another midfielder behind me. I don't know where to go. So he runs into that sort of situation quite a lot because everyone's looking to just do their individual things. Makes things really challenging.
Sounds like the coach isn't defining roles well enough.
Yeah, this one's not me, so.
Oh, in that case.
Down to
Fire the guy.
individual task, right? Every player needs to know their individual task within the team task. You're also training players to be autonomous at a time when they're just young and trying to figure out their place within the game. And so it's not like this is a high school age kid and he's not getting touches on the ball. This is a youth player playing 9-a-side when they need a lot of touches, So I think the idea of playing a different position, the kids playing 6, 8, or 10, well, they can play 4 or 5, or they can play 9 and put the get up top and center forward. Find ways to get that player on the ball. That kid also needs to be assertive and find ways to get on the ball. Our job as coaches is to help them understand what their individual task within the team is. So, that's part of development. And it's a difficult proposition. The players have to go out and kind of make their own luck. Is that the line from Batman? You make your own luck.
Yeah. But speaking of making your own luck, another question was that it says, I feel as I am not getting the opportunity I deserve to be seen for the first team. Currently playing for the second. What do I do?
I saw this question and thought immediately of this concept that just because you're working hard to get to the first team, the kids in the first team are working just like you, if not harder. And so just because you're progressing and training and you're getting better, the players above you are probably doing the same thing. And so you're improving, you're trying to get into the first team, but so are the first team players. And it's not a comparison about how I get into the first team per se. It's where are my performance gaps as a player? Where do I need to improve technically in order to bridge that gap? And so if all things are equal, every coach would put their best team together with their top players in the first team. But no one knows who's going to be a top team player in a couple of years. And so the idea is to, again, not compare yourself to your neighbors. It's to continue to put your head down and work at your performance gaps as the time will come. When it arrives, it's not when you want it to. It's kind of out of your control in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the U17 England's U17 World Cup winners, and two of them are years ago. Two of them are Morgan Gibbs White of Forest, and then second one was Phil Foden, and they're worth 50, 60 million plus dollars or pounds, and then the rest of them, I saw the roster of the starting players. They're like basically nowhere to be seen, right? So you don't know where you're gonna be in the next 4 years. And those players at that time were essentially, for their age group, they're top of the world, right? They were some of the best players, but now some are not. Some don't even have a team. So you don't know. Time sorts everything out, right? As you say.
Yeah.
To Phil's point, and go off of your anecdote. I think the player, they're on the second team, needs to, whether it's them or their parents, depending on the age, ask, what do I need to do to close the gap?
Mm-hmm.
Right, you work on those things, and then you could ask, can I train with the first team? Is he close enough? Is he a bubble player between the first and second team where it's appropriate for him to train with them? If so, okay, well, then over time, hopefully you start to close the gap and you reach the guys at the bottom of the roster. Because, like you said, you extend the timeline far enough, and if you're doing the little things consistently over time, you'll leapfrog some of the players that are not.
Yeah.
And we are, I'm assuming this is a youth player, so we're in grassroots. The coaches, the technical directors, whoever is leadership at the club, should be mindful that we're developing all the players within the club, not just individual teams. That's what we signed up for as coaches and directors. So it is your job to, in my opinion, provide that service, provide that feedback, and what do they need to do? Because it's a two-way street.
Yeah, I think again to our points of playing the long term, looking at the longer horizon. I mean, all of us included, but people seem to underestimate the long term upside, and then underestimate the short term downside, right? So just by going for those shiny things, or that private trainer is the best, we should go there, too, and we should go there too. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily help, right? You don't want it to be a mile long and six inches deep, So just looking at the longer horizon, that's important.
How old is this player? Are you able to say?
11.
11? Right, so in the infancy of his development. And so we could pretend to project where this player is going to end up, but again, we don't know.
Yeah.
right?
No
So
way.
all we can do on the day is give each kid our best and hope that, you know, they come with the right mentality and attitude to improve and lean into adversity, which is to make the first team. Currently,
Yeah.
you're not. So what are you going to do about it? I'm here to help you, but you also have to be willing to
To be helped.
to be helped. Yeah, by
Yeah.
doing your part.
Yeah. And just earlier, Phil, you mentioned, working hard, and I'm sure when you look at the best people in every industry, they work stupid hard, right? So when you look at them, they're probably the hardest workers or hardest employees or whoever, that may be. They work the hardest. So for anybody to say work smart, not hard, is such a stupid advice to give, because that only works against idiots. Right? You gotta work hard and smart. Otherwise you're not gonna get there. Like for me, I'm doing my YouTube channel and it's finally over 50,000 plus. But I'm looking at coaches and other channels that's got million plus subscribers, and they're posting like once every like 4 or 5 days. So I'm saying, if I post once every 4 or 5 days as well, I'm only I can't catch up, right? So if the players can have a similar approach, well, if that player trains, that much at that intensity, I've got to buck my idea up and maybe train a little more, and also train at better intensity or train smarter as well in terms of being deliberate with what I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to is time on task, identifying the biggest priorities in your areas for growth, within the 4 pillars of the game. How much time are you deliberately spending on the most important details of your technique or tactics, or maybe it's some physical details or the social component, whatever it is. The more time on task, the closer you get to proficiency, mastery. Again, the kid's 11, so like Louis said, we're at the infancy of our journey. Being in the first team might not be the best solution. If you're at the bottom of the rung in the first team and you're not playing as much during games, you're not getting as much out of your experience and matches as possible. The sweet spot, in my opinion, would be to be at the top rung of the second team with the opportunity to play in the first team occasionally. I get all my games with my own team and I can stand out and I can be the star. I can play a central role within the team, whether it's a 4 or 5 or 6, an 8, a 10, a 9. I'm playing a lot. I'm getting lots of meaningful opportunities. And then I also get the chance to play in the first team with a different role. Maybe I'm not playing as much. I experience a different position. I'm playing with different people. I hear a new voice if the coach is different. Like, that's the sweet spot for me. You get all your own games, plus you get a few extras, and the opportunity is there for you to move up potentially. I don't know if I'd want to be in the first team if that was my journey.
Yeah, because that first team has a very different approach to player rotation on the game days as well. Maybe they might be looking to win a little bit more rather than just giving out equal playing time, so everyone could have an opportunity to experience, right? And another thing is when it comes to training, like for example, like I was terrible at mathematics, so it took me much more repetitions compared to some of the top kids, and it's okay for that to happen, but the biggest thing is admitting that you're not good at it. So instead of making it, when it comes to training, practice, and repetitions, instead of making it a timeline basis, make it iteration basis, right? If I'm not as good as you, Phil, at this, then if I do the same amount as you, I'm not going to get there, right? But if I can do twice the work in the same time, I might be able to catch up. So I think it's important that, okay, if I'm pretty good at passing but rubbish at finishing, I'm going to have to learn how to strike the ball. And if I practice the same amount as Phil or you, Louis, then I'm not going to get there, right? So make it iteration basis more than timeline. Just because you were there at the training session doesn't mean you simply just got better at the same rate,
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're starting to get towards is, like, in a way, kind of goal setting. And it's either performance-based goal setting or it's outcome-based goal setting. The outcome could be to make the first team, but you have to set a series of performance-based goals to get there. So, like Louis mentioned, talk to the head coach or your technical director, find out what they feel are your biggest performance gaps or areas for growth, and it didn't necessarily do double the work. It's be as specific and deliberate at my performance gaps as possible, so I can be most efficient with the time that I do have to train on my own. Frank, you're right. You don't just show up at a training session and get better. You go home and you practice those things, those ideas, those skills, those concepts on your own, and that's typically where we see players progress the most. And so, getting into the first team shouldn't be so performative. It should be about performance-based goals to get there. The outcome, again, is to get to the first team. What do you need to do, you as an individual, to get there? So, like I said, doubling the work rate sometimes. It's just prioritizing what the biggest areas for growth are and then hammering those things. You only get so many hours a day, so being really deliberate with those performance gaps is huge.
Yeah. I think it'll, again, with that said, those repetitions and making those more meaningful and deliberate repetitions obviously gives you that confidence. And something I've learned from you when we were working together is that when you said repetition gives you confidence and confidence breeds success, right? And so when I hear, because I get a lot of messages from my audience, and sometimes I'll get messages like, well, I'm very good on the ball, or I'm really fast, but I freeze every time when the ball comes to me in these situations. It's like, what's happening here? What's causing this? What would you say to that?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so I get the message from a player specifically. He said, I am fast on the ball. I'm not sure what exactly that means, but every time I am on the ball, I freeze. So he panics. So he's asking, what's happening here? What is causing this?
Initially I'd want that person in the room here with us now to ask some questions. It sounds like to me that they're processing information after they've received the ball. Freeze might just come from taking too long to make decisions. You've got to scan and take those little mental pictures of different areas of the field before we take our first touch, so we have an idea of where our teammates, where the opponent is, where space is. That dictates what we do with the ball next. The opponent does primarily. So if we're not scanning to see where the nearest opponent in relation to our teammate is, then we are going to freeze because we're waiting to make a decision after we've already taken our first touch. And by then, against a good opponent, it's too late. It's too slow.
Yeah. Lou, you got anything?
It could be a confidence thing as well. Not wanting to make the wrong decision and let their team down. And so, to Phil's point, that having this person in the room would be best to really get to the root of the issue. But I also think looking at it globally from different angles is beneficial. So it's like, do they have a tactical understanding? Yes. Okay. Well, do they have then the confidence and the courage to execute that decision? Do they have the technical ability to do it?
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of looking at each. I think it's in order to really provide that value, that feedback to the player. It's knowing, contextually, maybe through film, what is happening in these situations, and then helping the player unpack it. I've seen you do your video analysis with players, and that's like a resource or a tool for them to really evaluate what is it that I was really feeling in that moment. And a lot of the times it could be, I was just afraid to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Right here and now, what would you have done differently?
I think those are so important, like to really know and remember how you felt in those moments and actions, Because at the end of the day, like when you're going back to those, or when you're watching it again, or when you look back, you want memory dividends, not liabilities, right? And then when it comes to making decisions, just like you just said, it all comes down to the nature of the game. Soccer is a game of anticipating and recognizing the pattern. Everything's a pattern. And so how many times have you exposed or how many times have you had repeated recalls of that situation, right? Maybe you simply didn't have enough experience when it comes to that specific moments that keep on happening in the game. Maybe you're not receiving the ball as you're backing off, for example, or, such as, or again, you fix anxiety with decisions and you fix the confidence through repetition, right? If you think you're on a team where you think everyone's so good, maybe not me, not so much, and you might have that imposter syndrome, and that's because you probably haven't done some epic shit, right? You gotta do stuff. You gotta actually have an experience to actually be able to demonstrate, right? So for you,
summed up my fear of skydiving right now. You just never done it before. It seems terrifying, and I'm never going to do it.
yeah,
So,
no, same, yeah. But yeah, you gotta. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, it's gonna all come down to the individual's technique, right? If you don't have the technique, forget it. But let's just talk about approach it with this player having the technique, and if this player just continues to freeze, then I think this player just needs to experience that that situation a little bit more, and to be able to problem solve in many different ways in those situations, right? Because if I were to play in my most comfortable positions, I might be able to problem solve in many different ways much more comfortably because I have experience that situation a lot. Another thing I say is, maybe that player is also really young. I don't know how old or young this player is, but if that player is young, something I always tell the players is like, okay, give your thumb out, just look at your thumbnail. When you look at it, everything else in the back is a blur. And let's just say that's your subconscious, right? And, right now on your thumbnail, that is exactly what you're working on. And once you really get comfortable with this, then you get to throw it to the background, and they just happen. And then now what is in your thumbnail then, right? So maybe, again, that person just needs to focus on that specific, particular moment in the game.
yeah, I kind of mentioned this to you, Frank, in the presentation I gave when it came out to Denver earlier this year. There's this individual zone of optimal functioning. In order to get there, you have to create some habits from training and gameplay, like getting the experience to be in that zone of optimal functioning is important. Players, in order to make fast decisions, to process information quickly, they have to have autonomy. They have to know how to solve problems on their own without being told what to do. They have to know how to protect the ball by dribbling or passing. They have to know how to bring teammates into the game. Like, there's a lot of complexity here. Essentially, what it comes down to, though, is players being in optimal flow state, where you're not thinking about what someone else wants me to do. I'm scanning and making my own decisions based on cues or clues or triggers in the environment that help me determine what type of touch I need to make. If it's a one-touch pass, if I need to hit it with my left foot or my right foot, if I need to turn and hide the ball and play backwards or forwards, or dribble to hide it or beat the opponent 1v1. You're absolutely right, both of you, in terms of like technical competency. In order to make autonomous decisions, we do have to be really technically masterful. And it also comes from experience, big game experience, big training experience, to know when risk and reward come into play. But to my initial point, in order to avoid freezing when you have the ball, you have to experience the game in meaningful ways that allow you to determine success and failure before you've tried it.
Yeah.
You played 10,000 hours of games, you know what works and what doesn't work. And so without experience, you don't know what works and what doesn't work. And so you're less likely to try things because you don't have that kind of Rolodex of experience to fall back on. I know in a game I can't hit that pass with my left foot, so I'm just not going to try. I'm going to go to check down, option B if you're an American football quarterback, and you play the next option. But you make those decisions very fast and fluid, and that comes from the experiences you gain playing, and that comes from the autonomy you feel over time, because you know your areas for strength and you know where your performance gaps are, and you play to your strengths and you avoid your weaknesses. And so,
Yeah.
those are important details as you get older. Kids, unfortunately, just don't have those experiences yet. They are going to make mistakes. They're going to freeze. They are going to bottle it because they don't have that list of previous experiences to fall back on. They don't know what they don't know. So,
Yeah.
they are gonna freeze occasionally because they've never maybe experienced that moment before.
And if this player is on the top team or the first team where they're playing in at a division that is beyond their level, it's more than okay to play on a second team to where the game's a little bit slower and you can learn those patterns of play where you can have a bit more time to control the ball and refine your technique to execute those decisions. And the moment that you outgrow that environment, okay, then it's now you know what to do. Now do it faster. You can do that with the first team, but that's where if you're a bubble player, having a balance of both.
Yeah.
Playing your games with the second team, but you get to train twice with that group, and then once with the top team, so you get a balance of both. And I think that's a way to first figure out is it it can be glaring obvious if it's a technique thing, okay, but if it's more of a confidence thing, going down and playing with a second team and seeing, or if you're in a second team going down to a third team, it's all relative. Seeing what type of impact you're having, can kind of pinpoint what is the issue at hand.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, don't interrupt me. When you're watching game film, and let's say they're playing with that second group, and they're balling out. You're like, okay, so I know that they have, the technique and all that. Now it's why can't you do it with the first team? So is it the mental side of the game? And I think that's where us as coaches come into play, largely as like mentors to to develop the confidence in the kid when they don't have it just yet.
Can I talk?
Yeah.
But I think in short, what we are trying to say is that confidence is very much a domain specific, right? And then you increase your confidence percentage through proof. And how do you have proof? Through repetition. Again, back to the original point of repetition breeds confidence and confidence breeds success, right? You just need more proof that you can do it. And as you have more success, can you do it faster, right? At a higher rate. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, these things are all very related, in my opinion. From what we've kind of started talking about to now, it is a confidence thing. There's not enough technical repetition occurring either at home or in the training environment, in a team environment, that is. And so without those meaningful repetitions at the appropriate level, decision making is very clouded. It is very murky. That's too much gray area.
Is that why Liverpool is struggling at the moment? Do they need to
Drop a level.
drop all potentially?
Relegation, frankly, it's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Down to championship. Drop a level. Have more success up there or down there.
I mean, this actually kind of comes at the heart of what we're talking about. You sign players that have never experienced the league before. It's the most demanding league in the world.
Yeah.
Every game that you play, you can be beaten by an opponent. You have untested, high-quality, world-class players, no doubt, but untested in the English Premier League. They need those experiences. They need to know what works at this level and what doesn't work at this level. They need to build up that big game experience, so they're autonomous in that environment. It takes.
Do you think those obviously the players that were brought in Forget about Diogo Jota's death and all that, but just looking at the pure transfer market, do you think, those players not having previous, winning history or winning big trophies, and then they're coming into the group of players that have won everything, say Virgil van Dijk, Mo Salah, and all these players, right? That sort of mentality or sort of set standards within the club. Do you think that takes? I know they're all professionals, but do you think that takes time for them to adjust or get to them sort of mental standard?
Yeah, and some players take longer than others. You do need time to bed in. You also need time to taste success. The more experiences you have being successful, the more likely you are to believe that you will be successful. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you sign players that don't have big game pedigree or they don't have a lot of success, experiencing success at a team level and individual level, they're less likely to perform at the level that you expect them to right away. You have to develop that mentality, just like you have to develop your technique. I'll say this anecdotally. I was a 22-year-old college freshman. I played in a team with my older brother and some of his college teammates while I was taking community college classes. And when I transferred into the school of my choice, I was older than all of the seniors. And I'd been playing at a reputable level. I felt like when I came into the team, my 3 or 4 years additional life experience, I was prepared to play college soccer because I had 3 or 4 years under my belt of learning more about myself, becoming kind of more of an adult. When you're 18 or 19, the world is very new to you still. I feel like age and experience, you can't put a price tag on. You just can't remember all the things that you did or didn't know when you were 18 or 19. When you sign somebody in the transfer market, you're signing not just their future potential at the professional level, you're signing players for an immediate impact. So you are signing their experience or lack thereof. You are signing them for a winning pedigree or winning culture, and you have to develop those things. Like I said, just like your technique or your tactical understanding. Those are mental traits, mental health and sports performance traits.
I think another one I'm kind of curious of is the previous season when Liverpool won the league, they only brought in one player, Chiesa, and he hasn't, participated much anyway. So with Arne Slot coming in, from his perspective, he probably knows the system with the current squad, he cannot change much because there's no new players in. Why fix something that's not necessarily broken, right? So maybe he got the best out of those players, with what he's got at the time. But now with the fact, these new players that have come in, maybe, I guess human psychology, I feel you would know much better than I do. I wonder if he felt the need, or he felt necessary. It was necessary for him to change things just so he has, he creates his own identity in a way. I wonder if he was maybe forced to do it, by himself, right? Not necessarily from external factors, but just because new players are brought in, right? And sometimes when things go sideways, we've all been there. Life can punches you in the stomach, and you just don't know how long that's gonna last. You get second and third punches in a row, and it looks like that's what's happening. And when you get to that point, how do you get out of it? Because it's not just you, right? You're working with a squad of possibly 30 players day in, day out. So the result isn't necessarily just on you, but you have to get the results out of the 30 players that you're working with.
Yeah, I think the reason that they're pros as part mentality, an unwavering sense of self-belief. It's such a player-centered sport. You're making mistakes in real time. You don't need your coach to tell you that was a bad pass, or you misplayed your touch, or it was bad 1v1 defending, whatever the case may be. They're pros for a reason, because they are so egotistically and narcissistically driven, and I mean that in all due deference to all the world-class players we see play on the weekend. They don't doubt themselves. There's no room for that. You want to play at the highest level, you have to be your own biggest advocate, not an adversary to your own performance. And so that comes from within, that comes from the club and the support you feel from the staff, the playing staff, your teammates. I mean, you guys mentioned it earlier, you have to celebrate your teammates' successes. A more successful teammate makes me a better teammate, makes me a better player, makes us a better team. You want to celebrate the success of your teammates. You want to help build them up and fill their emotional tanks. And so when you're finding yourself in a losing streak or you've lost your starting position, the environment should be uplifting. You know, the people that are in your life that are the most important are the ones that make your lives easier, not harder. And so if
Yeah.
you're up against it, you're struggling to get results, or you're just not where you want to be in the league, or you're trying to make the second team, the people in your environment and your sphere of influence, they make your lives easier. They don't make it any more difficult. They fill your tank by telling you that you have value and that you belong in the environment that you're in. And you, again, as a player, you inherit those traits. Your parents help you develop them. Your coach helps you develop them. Your teammates, the club helps you develop them. And over time, they become your own. You adopt them. So it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You miss a penalty, you don't tell yourself that you're shit. You tell yourself that you got the next one. You know, and
Yeah.
so pros never waver. They don't collapse like that.
How do you turn it around if you're the manager? They've had a string of poor results. You know, we're watching them on TV, but some of them do look like their head has dropped, like they're frustrated with each other, with themselves, with the manager. I mean, who knows? But they definitely don't look like, in the very least, like they're finding enjoyment. So, as a manager, how do you reinvigorate them, or what's the solve? What's the next step?
I just heard this from a student coach in a course that I was teaching, and I thought it was really interesting. There's a mental health and sports performance approach, and I don't know who coined this, but essentially having a grateful approach to what you're doing. You could look at it negatively or cynically that we're shit and we're never going to get out of the basement, we're never going to turn our results around, or you could look at it like this is another day for me to chase my childhood dream. It's a beautiful day outside. It's a chance for me to compete. It's a chance for me to challenge myself. It's a chance for me to meet my performance goals. It's a chance for me to look at life from a sunny disposition. You know, to drive in to the training center after a rough result on a Saturday or Sunday. It could be miserable if you only dwell on the kind of negative things that have happened in the past. A grateful approach is the opposite. Instead of looking at the past, you're looking at the present. Here's what's in front of me. I love what I do. I love who I am. I love the people that I work with, or I love the area that I'm at. Finding those reasons to be gracious, to be humble, to be positive, to be optimistic. Like those are skills, and it's a performance-based goal that a lot of people have to practice. You know, we all could wake up in a funk and be in a bad mood around ourselves or others. You have to set goals within your day to help define your viewpoint on life. Everyone could wake up in a bad mood, but how do you create time in the day? How do you build thoughts into your own kind of schema that help you control the narrative in your head? You know, it's a negative feedback loop over time with bad results or bad performances. How do you change that? I can't speak what it's like to be a pro manager. Just as a player that's had bad performances, you've got to find ways to be grateful for the opportunities in front of you and not dwell in the past. You know, that gives you anxiety and fear, and you need to be in control of the thoughts in your head. It's a skill that you have to practice.
Yeah, I think that skill, I'm sure a lot of those players practice it. A lot of them maybe have it. But I think the toughest thing for those players is that everything that they do, even the breath that they take, is scrutinized by social media, by journalists, right? And it's hard. Yeah, people can say, well, then don't look at it. It's hard not to. Do you know what I mean? And then, when you have 100 nice things, and then when there's one bad thing out of the 100, your mind just goes to it, and that's all you can think about, right? And when people say, "Oh yeah, I've had a bad year," and if you really objectively look at it, you really haven't. You look at those two really bad things that have happened to you, and you make that bigger than what they really are, right? So it's, again, to your point, it's a mental skill set. How do you look at things positively and turn them into, okay, here's a great opportunity for me to no better day than today. Great opportunity for me to get better.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of
And
mentioned this phrase,
yeah,
catastrophize. We tend to catastrophize things that aren't going well in our lives. That result, that bad pass, that performance. The mindset of having a short term memory and forgetting those little small. I wouldn't even say small details. Every detail is huge in the game. Overlooking or forgetting about temporarily those things that might throw you out of your performance cycle. Uh, you can't catastrophize those details. It is one bad pass in a giant game of passes, and so it is important that players and coaches embrace that. One bad result doesn't have to lead to two or three, and so as a coach, there's lots of things that you can do. I think players are ultimately in complete control of their performances when a coach has to take everyone into consideration and mold the team, and that's a lot harder. I think individual players have it, I think, easier to manage because they are in control of their thoughts. They are in control of how they react to bad moments.
So everything that we just mentioned, how do we bring that to a youth player
I go back
to
to goal
provide them
setting.
with?
Yeah, I
Go
go back
ahead.
to goal setting. Things that are going to throw you out of things that are obstacles to achieving your performance goal. What are those obstacles? What are the things that knock you off that path? And then what are your action plans to get back on that path? That's uh, part of those individual zone of optimal functioning. I know if I want to play at my best, here are the things that are going to knock me out of that. I'm not going to start. Again, it's a really good team. I make a mistake early in the match. I don't like the ref. The ref calls me for a foul, gives me a yellow card. We get scored on early, like whatever the case may be. You identify the obstacles that are going to detract you from achieving your goals, and then you create an action plan or action plans to be very specific about getting back into the zone of functioning. What are what's your mantra? Do you wear a little bracelet that focuses your thoughts? Do you have your Zen that you can tell yourself? A lot of it's like positive self-talk and imagery that help you remember that you have a grateful approach, or that you are good enough. You do belong on the field. You're going to get the next goal. Like, you have to build those plans into your repertoire, if you will. It's part of your role as a player in this sport. You have to stick to your performance goals. So, like I said, that includes how do you respond to moments of adversity that are going to detract you from achieving your goals, which is different for every player.
Yeah. And I think that's where, again, like working with youth players, we come in, and they are not finished products. They're going to make all types of mistakes, and we should just accept that. Accept that they're going to make mistakes because they haven't had certain amount of repetitions on the ball at a certain level or speed. And so for us to be frustrated when it doesn't go to plan in a youth game, we're setting ourselves up to not enjoy the game or coaching, but you're also setting yourself up to not be able to help that player in the moment if we're being reactive to these mistakes. And so we
yeah,
know that they happen at the pro level. We see it, right? And these guys are adults for the most part, 18 and older. We work with, we mentioned 12-year-olds earlier, and an 11-year-old, and definitely not adults, adolescent. Some of them prepubescent, right? And so I think what helps me is keeping it in perspective. And it is not so much about the short term. You know, we use the short term results kind of as mile markers to see where we're at, kind of what progress are we making or not making, and then, you know, continue on that path or make adjustments, right? But to be overly reactive and put so much weight on one game that, you know, you belittle a player, right? You know, you dim their light and their experience and their enjoyment for the game. And so you don't even give them a chance to be a pro if that's what they want, because you've already, if you want to call it, coached it out of them. You know, so I think ultimately what I'm getting at is, you know, we have so much more influence than we realize that I wish more did. You know, to help the game along, specifically in the U.S., because this is where we coach.
Yeah. I think the biggest one for me is a coach's job should be to, at the end of the day, eliminate ourselves so the kids can just carry on with what they know to play, right? And if we take away the room for them to make mistakes, that would be the total opposite of what we are meant to be doing. Because mistakes obviously gives us feedback, and we want to put the players in the feedback loop, and we want them to make mistakes fast, so that way they can learn fast. I think it's important that we cultivate that environment where they should not have any worry in their head to make those mistakes, and they should just be able to take the information, give it a go. If that doesn't work out, what have I learned? And repeat.
Agreed.
All right. Well, I think this is where we conclude our recent chat.
Yeah, this was great. I enjoyed the conversation. Let's set up another one in the next couple of weeks and collect any questions you might have from your own home environments, and let's
Well, we're gonna put this on YouTube, so let's find out if anyone's got any questions.
Sounds great. Frank, thanks for moderating and putting us all together.
Of course. Thanks for your time, guys.
Of course.
Cool, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Louis,
I will see you all soon.
Frank, let us know when you're back in Chicago.
Sounds good. All right, then. I will see you later.
Bye, fellas.
Bye now.